Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
USAA.
This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was getting frustrated by your forms. Now, Taxes is uploading your forms with a snap, and a TurboTax expert will do your taxes for you. One who's backed by the latest tech, which cross-checks millions of data points for absolute accuracy, all of which makes it easy for you to get the most money back, guaranteed. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
So good, so good, so good.
Just in and so good. Thousands of spring finds up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. And that means thousands of fresh reasons to rack.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
Vince, Calvin Klein, Rag & Bone?
Obsessed. Why do we rock? For the hottest deals.
Save on Madewell, Kate Spade New York, Sam Edelman, Joe's, and more. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
It's really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rosbifs Rugby Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby. The top 14 Pro D2 Nationale Champions Cup, Challenge Cup, the Six Nations is not too far around the corner, so we'll be talking about Les Bleus in due course as well. Of course, the brilliant towns, cities, bars, cuisine, people, fans, everything that makes French rugby so fabulous. Rob, 2025 is here. Bid adieu to 2024. How's your year started?
It's improving. It's improving. Today was better than it has been the first kind of couple of days of work. And it's amazing how good you feel on a Monday when you've not had anything to drink over the weekend. No. And you get a kind of prioritize getting exercise. It's amazing what that can do to a man. I was actually relatively productive at work today, which is a rarity.
I'm glad to hear it. Will you be, or are you partaking in Dry January?
I'm not, partly because you're ruining any chances of that. You individually are ruining any chances of that, potentially.
Me individually?
Yeah, well, by being born in January, that doesn't help. And then maybe a little trip.
Possibly one for next week. The reason I ask is that Dry January is quite a touchy subject, it appears, in France. Obviously, a country renowned for its wine, and so this is actually an article from last year, but there are similar sentiments from the last couple of days as well. If you search France Dry January, but last year Emmanuel Macron was accused of caving into the wine lobby by failing to lend his weight to an alcohol-free Dry January. He also came under some pressure for chilling a few beers during the World Cup. And things are apparently slightly at loggerheads because the French health minister has sort of come out and backed Dry January, but for the fifth year in a row, nothing from the top.
Macron's having none of it. Love it.
Yeah. A quote here. I'm not sure who this quote is from, but I thought you might quite like it. It's not French culture to not have wine. There you go. What more?
Tell me something I didn't know.
What more do you need?
Are you doing Dry January? You're back in London, so you've made it that far.
I've got back to London. Well, probably until my birthday. Yeah, haven't got too much in between. We'll see if Exeter or when Exeter turn over Bordeaux, I might have a shandy to celebrate the weekend. But we can get onto that. We can get onto that later. Should we dive straight in to what was, as ever, a very, very intriguing round of top 14 action with some particularly splendid tries sprinkled amongst the fixtures. Some proper try of the season contenders, some proper kind of, we'll get into it. Where should we start? Should we go with Toulouse, La Rochelle, La Rochelle hosting Toulouse? Because this, for various reasons, has sparked a lot of thoughts, opinions. on the surface, La Rochelle scraped past Toulouse with the last kick of the game. Antoine Astoy holding his nerve, but the story runs a little bit deeper than that. Do you want to enlighten us on some of the furore surrounding this to start with and since?
Well, we kind of knew that they might be resting a few. I don't think anyone quite expected. Oh, actually, no. Rugby Rama said that they kind of knew that there was quite a few people being rested by Toulouse. I don't think anyone quite expected the team that eventually got put out, because I reckon I'd heard of 10 of the starting lineup, and I had to genuinely hadn't heard of 5 players in that starting lineup, because they sent a very, very youthful side. I think everyone other than, so there's return of Cyril Bay, really cool. So that kind of ordinarily would have grabbed all the headlines after a long injury. After that injury, he broke his leg in the semi-final against La Rochelle.
Yeah.
And he was the only member of the pack born before the year 2000. And I think the next he might have been the team, because Nelson Epe on the wing was the next oldest at 23 or 24. So he might, if it's 2025, he must have also been born in the year 2000. So quite remarkable. There are a few more older heads on the bench, but yeah, it was a genuine. It wasn't far off an Espoirs team, because the Espoirs is goes down to under 23, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think the average age of the side was 22 or something, which is pretty extraordinary.
And La Rochelle, by comparison, for their 100th sellout in a row at Marcel Deflandre, they were basically at full noise minus Will Skelton.
Yeah, and they've got away with one a little bit here, haven't they? Let's be honest. Like the momentum you felt in the last 20 minutes was going in Toulouse's direction. They were. It was so easy to say, such a young team. They were deeply impressive. Some of the guys. I thought Delpy at 10 was. He
absolutely
looks
brilliant. Yeah, just so calm, and a wonderful striker of a ball as well. His goal kicking, because there were some tough kicks in that, and he nailed all of them. But his kicking from hand was beautiful as well. I was we were kind of already aware of him because he played in that Montpellier game last year where they sent a C team. We kind of basically spotted him because he played in a Nationale semi-final for Blognac about a year before. So I think about 18 months ago now, he was in a Nationale semi-final, which quite cool, especially for a club that's now gone bust. Anyone else that caught your eye?
I know he's played a little bit more, but you mentioned him there. I thought Nelson Epe looked really good.
Rapid, isn't he?
He is really rapid.
Really enjoyed the foot race near the end between him and Bosmaran.
He's
also a very exciting player.
He slide tackles Dylan Lays on the floor to reclaim the ball, which is quite good. Yeah, those two I thought were probably the standouts. I thought Vignier at 12 as well. The whole back line for
that's a unit, doesn't he?
Big old boy.
Bumped Weenie Antonio.
Yeah, I feel Big Weenie's been a little bit hard done by there. It looks like someone's pulled the rug out from underneath him at the point of contact. He's slipped over on a skateboard that someone's planted at the same time. But yeah, the whole back line, given with the exception of Koss, it's green and then some, and he's still about 7, isn't he?
Well, he was the one that gave away the fairly needless penalty to losing the game. He was very quiet. I'd kind of forgot he was on the pitch for long periods, which is annoying because he was a brilliant player last year, and you kind of expect him to, much like a kind of Josh Brennan and Clement Verger were, to kind of step up and be a bit of a leader of that younger side, which he wasn't, which was a bit disappointing, really. Maybe he's fallen down the pecking order now after that performance. But Clement Verger was a brilliant, for someone that plays in a lot of these kind of Toulouse B team games, that for me was just a name. He was him, Banos. They're just names that I know play for Toulouse. They're probably okay because they play for Toulouse. I thought they were both really, really good. Verger's physicality was, bearing in mind who he's up against as well, to kind of be a physical leader in that Toulouse side against that La Rochelle side is really impressive. And then, there was a lot, La Rochelle were getting a lot of heat on on Twitter for their attack, which we know their kind of phase play attack has not been that great. It is basically now just maul, driving maul from line out or crossfield kicks. But I don't think they were that bad. Or you wait for Tawara Kerbalo to be within 5 meters and just be quicker than everyone else, which is another useful tactic. He's so good. He was still brilliant. Like, for all the talk, there was a lot of kind of looking at the age of the La Rochelle side, but Kerbalo is still a fantastic rugby player.
Yeah, I think the age thing is a little bit is a bit of a red herring in terms of the performance, because it's unusual, certainly in the backs. I'd say the age profile of the pack is pretty normal, I'd suggest, particularly for a good, you tend to have slightly older front rows, don't you? There's no Booger, it's been out injured for so long. So
Wardy's not old.
He's 29, Red Eye Wardy.
Yeah, he's not over 30. Jeggy's obviously very young.
So that's kind of, but the back line to not have anybody under the age of 30 in a professional back line is pretty extraordinary. But it doesn't mean they're not any good. And I think it's hard to get away from the fact that regardless of, it's a tricky one. They've come up with some heat, and I think you have to say rightly so. Like, there is, like, we thought this was going to be an absolute cakewalk, and I don't think that's unfair to say. And
we weren't unique in that.
no, I think that was universal. They flattered to deceive. It's odd, isn't it? They sort of seemed to have a bit of a resurgence and lost to Van, flattered to deceive a little bit against Clermont. And actually 2 home league games in a row where they have been beyond lucky to have 50 men on the pitch. The other week, Teddy Thomas, yellow card upgraded to a 4-week ban that was obvious. If that was obvious, this Tolu Latu, it's in my mind, I'm not a massive fan of the phrase, but it's a proper dog shot, as they call it in the NRL.
Cheap shot, isn't it?
On the Rock, the Toulouse 9. Like, it is absolutely, he has done remarkably well to come out of that with like a gammy shoulder, as opposed to it's the worst.
Knee.
There was it at the end of last season, Alban Placine against, I think, Clermont. I can't remember the name of it was one of the Clermont props, did something similar, which has put him out for the foreseeable, and it was not as bad in terms of the speed, clear intent. Like, it's a shocker. It's a real shocker.
I was trying to look at, because I watched this after the event, so I watched this yesterday as opposed to on live on Saturday. So I'd seen all the conjecture online, and I'd seen the clip that you kind of reposted on our Twitter, and I kind of came at it as like, what is the position that they've come to not give that a red card? And obviously, like, my French is pretty patchy, so I'm not listening in intently to the referee, who I thought was dreadful, just generally. Mr. Nucci, I assume he's not related to Lenny Nucci, just looking physique wise, let alone kind of approach to physicality in rugby. But there's not, like, because his head hits the knee and his shoulder hits the shoulder.
Yeah.
So there's no wrap, and he's basically headbutted him in the knee, almost like launched himself to. It's just bizarre. Yeah, I hope he can get cited like Teddy Thomas did.
Yeah,
and it's frustrating because he has a reputation, and he's actually been playing really well, channeling that aggression in a really good way in the last few weeks, particularly those Champions Cup games. But that was pretty shoddy behaviour.
Yeah, it wasn't good, was it? The only thing to say in a slight defence of not Tolu Latu, but of La Rochelle, is that regardless of what happened in this game, reputationally, there was very, very little to gain from this, and teams can have a bit of a stinker. And as you say, actually, some of the guys on the bench, the team that finished, when you've got Gelanche and Capuozzo and Marchand and guys like that, Marchand, who I thought looked like he was really maybe trying a little bit too hard as the senior man when he came on, as fabulous a player he is. It was never going to be a great outcome. So the fact they've got the win, I suppose they can move on. But it's they were looking, the Toulouse coaching staff and bench, there were a lot of wry smiles and knowing looks, and
Cyril Bay and Hugo Moller were having a right laugh, weren't they?
Yeah, there was a lot when the drop goal was slotted. There was like a lot of like sideways glances and things like that.
I wasn't sure if they were going to be annoyed at that for kind of not keeping on going and trying to win the game, but they were like jumping up and down and loving it.
Yeah,
and then there's the fact that like as I can't remember who Bertrand obviously got injured and he kind of struggled through, and so Cyril Bailly's like warming up, and they're like as he's about to go on for like 2 minutes straight into a scrum, he's still chuckling to Hugo Moller. He then got monstered by Georges-Henri Colomb, but you mentioned him there. And it was the result of the Tolo Latu incident. Ange Capozzo at 9 looked like a day in, day out scrum half to me. And I had a slight inkling that he had played a bit of 9 early on his career. So I did some digging. Now, here we go, Richard. Ange Capozzo's top 14 debut, I think his first appearance for Grenoble, full stop. He came off the bench for Jeremy Valençon at scrum half. Jeremy Valençon is a 27-year-old scrum half who currently plays for Bourg-en-Bresse. So
nice.
Their careers have gone in opposite directions. That was in May 2019. That was away at Pau. The final score was 22-0 to Section Paloise, up the boys. I think Grenoble might have already been down by then, or very close. There were 2 players playing in that game that also played in this game.
Oh, wow. We need to answer that right now because it's going to really...
I reckon you can get one of them pretty quickly. If it helps, they were both playing for Pau and they were both playing for La Rochelle.
Both playing for Pau and both playing... Oh, what? So one of them would have been Antoine Astoy.
Correct.
Who else played for Pau?
They actually mentioned that he was a former Pau player in commentary, and that reminded me as well. So I don't know whether you caught that.
I don't know if I did. Is it Laveau?
No, it's Quentin Lesbioc, the hooker.
Did he play for Pau, did he?
Yeah. And there was some names in that game in Ange Capozzo's debut. Other ones that played this weekend in the top 14: Debagna, Pesenti, Calais, Labai for Pau, and then Garacci, Steve Blanc-Lapaz, Pablo Alberti, and Etienne Foucaud were all in the Grenoble team that day. Some of the other teams playing that day. Okay, you ready?
Cool.
There is a current Pau coach, current member of the Pau coaching staff, played that day for Pau. He is a 2-time Champions Cup losing finalist.
Domingo?
Correct. There was also playing that day a World Cup winning fly half.
What's his name? Colin Slade?
Correct.
Yeah.
There was also playing that day.
We're plumbing the depths here, Rob.
A follower of Rosbifs Rugby on Instagram.
Remind me the year?
2019. That's clue number 1 for this final one.
Steve Cummins?
No. Clue
Steve.
number 2. He was once European Player of the Year.
And for Pau? Oh, God. I don't know.
Clue number 3. He's a 3-time Heineken Cup winner.
3 times. All with Toulouse?
No. Think of a team that famously won it 3 times in a row.
Stefan Armitage?
Correct. Clue number 4 was that his brother was also playing in all those wins. But yeah, Stefan Armitage played that day in Ange Capozzo's debut.
There we are.
Ange Capozzo never started at 9, but he has started at 10 in a game against Rouen in Pro D2 in November 2020. But other than that, he's kind of only done bench appearances at either. But I thought he was very good. There's some other talk about whether he's a long-term backup to Dupont, but we talked last week about how much we rate Paul Grau.
Yeah, he's. I think you rate him more than I do, but I do. He's a good player.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
Life is made up of many gorgeous moments. Cherish them all, big and small, with Blue Nile. Whether it's for yourself or a loved one, Blue Nile's unrivaled selection of expertly crafted fine jewelry and statement pieces help make all your moments sparkle. Blue Nile's experts are on hand to guide you, and their diamond guarantee ensures you get the highest quality at the best price. Celebrate a life well lived in the most radiant way and save up to 30% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
O'Reilly.
You need parts? O'Reilly Auto Parts has parts. Need them fast? We've got fast. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Product availability. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Anyway, La Rochelle get a valuable win against Toulouse under 11s and march on. Where should we go next? Should we touch on, you've mentioned them there, the Rosbif derby, Castres Po. Castres they lost to Bordeaux like a week or two ago, didn't they? Maintain their 85% or whatever it works out now, home record.
Talking about much needed wins, Castres were 3 in a row in the top 14.
Wobbling a bit, and probably both sides happy-ish.
I texted you on Saturday afternoon after the result, and I said I was pretty happy with the losing bonus point. I think Po do not match up particularly well to the physicality of that Castres side, and the fact it was a pretty ugly game as well to kind of get through.
Yeah,
some Joe Simmons penalties is good result. Get through.
Yeah, they've been blown away a little bit at times away from home, haven't they? So narrowing the gaps. Although I think I'd like to work. Well, I said I'd like to work it out. It's probably not that interesting, apart from when they got absolutely blown away by Clermont away. Castres' margins of victory and defeat this year have been quite slim, I think. Perhaps with the exception of when they played Stade Francais. There's a lot of 5-point wins and 6-point wins.
On last week, they lost quite.
They probably got dusted there. But anyway, Castres march on.
Well, but with a change up top.
Yes, Jeremy Davidson has pulled the plug a little bit earlier than hoped, I think.
Yeah. So is he gone, or is he just stepping back?
The plan was he was going to go fully at the end of the season, and now it appears he's brought that forward, but is staying on in some sort of presidential advisory, I guess some sort of consultant coach role, while he's looking to move somewhere else and just needs to stay involved in the club. Yeah, it all feels like a little bit of a strange one. Yeah, it feels like a little bit of an odd one, that. Like he's been successful enough by kind of French standards, I suppose. He didn't have a great time of it necessarily at Brive, but you wouldn't say Castres last season or this for a team that would be desperate to move on. I don't know if he's got an offer elsewhere. There's a few rumours linking him with Munster, as everyone seems to be doing. So we'll see. But yeah, Xavier Sardoni is taking over, I believe, as head coach with immediate effect. So,
do you know anything about him?
No, I don't.
He was not a name I recognised at all.
No,
so
we'll find out more. I'm sure. Xavier Sardoni, born in Clermont-Ferrand. There you go. That's what I know about him thus far. Okay. Where else do we go? We said Po, good losing bonus point, inch him away from that kind of slightly congested bottom end of the table. Big game, Lyon Perpignan. Lyon won for the first time since 10 BC.
13th of October, yeah. And it was pretty sketchy towards the end. I think Po had a chance in the Castres 22 and they threatened a little bit, but I think Perpignan actually looked like they were building quite a bit of momentum. It was 17-3 at half time, finished 17-12, and it actually looked like a much better game than the Castres Po game, despite the scoreline. But the turning point was USAP changing their full front row at half time and bringing on that first choice front row of Georgie Berrier, Ignacio Ruiz, so Argentine reserve hooker, I guess, behind Montoya, and Kieran Brooks, front of the pod, Rosbif, and they absolutely dominated at scrum time after that. Gomez Sarr got sent to the sim. No, Jermaine Ainsley got sent to the sim bin pretty early on in the second half because just from scrum penalties. And they worked their way up the field. They got good field position. Tommy Allen kicked some goals. Lyon's disciplined 16 penalties, which is not good.
Wow.
But it was actually Ruiz who kind of was a bit naive at the back of a maul and allowed himself to get pushed into touch pretty easily, kind of about 10 metres out. with the last play of the game, needing a try to tie with the kick to come, which surprised me because he's an international player, and Montoya, as an Argentinian, is one of the best at controlling himself at the back of them all. So I think that was a little bit of a chance slipped for USAP to pull off a brilliant result. But my word, Leon would be bloody relieved.
Yeah, you think so. A team that are having somewhat better fortunes and put in a really dominant performance for Montpellier, who, well, now looking like proper barrage East's potential and maybe a little bit beyond that as well.
Their trajectory is going in the opposite direction to their pitch. They are continually improving. Their pitch looked even worse this weekend, to the extent that there's like one of the tries, which is brilliant, was there's like a chip over the top from Reinach, and it almost like bounces off like a kind of horseshoe horseshoe imprint somewhere in the pitch, like into his hand, which makes it look even more spectacular. It's remarkable.
Yeah,
for a club that's supposedly got loads of money as well.
Just, yeah, it's sort of comedically ridiculous, isn't it? The deterioration there. But yeah, no, it's a proper win, isn't it? Because Bayonne sent a pretty much as good as it gets side, and they've been fairly thrust aside. Did notice I didn't see a huge amount of this game, but did notice, I think the first try actually, was it Ryan? No, it wasn't. It was before the Reinach chip and chase. Really playing with quite a lot of confidence and ambition, forwards offloading, as well as being massive and aggressive and all of those bits and pieces as well. Shout out to Rosbif favourite, Sam Simmons, who found himself off the bench playing at outside centre with George Bridge on the flank.
What?
For one of the set moves, I think they lined it up that way, which is quite good fun.
The Montpellier madness is kind of
coming
genius with the madness.
Genius with the madness, yeah. They're going pretty well. Another side who are going really, really well, Bordeaux, who cast aside Stade Francais tightish at half time, and then, as is Bordeaux's wont, it seems, just decided to turn it on. Also a great candidate, as there was in the Montpellier game, for Rosbif own try of the year. Not as good as Castres the week before, not as good as David Niniashvili all those weeks back, but a couple of...
I think Niniashvili is the clubhouse leader for me on that. Passing it into a post is just... that's going to take some beating.
It's going to take some beating. These aren't quite so bad, but you've got two full... Tibergian and I'm actually not sure who it was, Stade Francais. It might not have been the fullback, but just Louis Bielbiere with the hoof it and chase tactic.
Oh, I did see this, yeah.
And as quick as he is, he's like, yeah, poor guy. Bielbiere's now scored, I don't know how many tries he scored, but he must be getting up there with Mangala now. He's having an absolute time of it.
Talking of 15s that scored own tries, there was nearly a beautiful one from Martin Meliond, which he basically just knocked it on, and someone from USAP has kicked it through, and he's just hauled him down. So like immediate yellow card, because like had he not hauled him down, we were looking at basically like, there you go, and then a USAP player's like kicked it through. Well, I can tell you, Richard, that there is one player that has joined Mangala at the top of the tree in the try scoring, and it is not a Bordeaux player, but it is a Toulon player.
Tuakuvu?
No, Gael Drehan.
Drehan, of course. He's 5-3 now, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Did you see much of this?
I saw the whole game. I thought it was a brilliant game of rugby.
It was cracking, wasn't it?
I think, so you mentioned up top that there were some possible try of the season contenders. Off the top of my head, shout out Leo Barre in the Stad game, basically set up. I think it actually went down to Jeremy Ward, but set up some ludicrous stuff from Leo Barre. But I do think that first Tuathuvu try, which is basically the Serin magic, I think, off the top of my head, that is the try of the season so far.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I can't think of anything that matches it for like some of the ludicrous stuff, other than the next Toulon try, or
which was
Drehan
brilliant.
Try, which is amazing.
Ironically, starts with Serin missing his pass. He throws it miles over goal.
Wow, what was it unintentional or not to bypass Paolo Garbisi and give it to Leicester Fayanganuku?
Who knows?
Because most of the game bypassed Paolo Garbisi, I have to say. He's a very peripheral player for an international 10 in that side. But yeah, Serin was just...
They're doing the business.
The thing about that Tuathuvu try at the start, and it's on. I've posted it on our story this evening on Instagram, so it might still be there if you're listening to this on Tuesday. But it's on the top 14, top 5 tries on their socials. The thing that we do need to mention in that is that Olivon does his knee and still gets the offload away, and that is like a ACL.
It doesn't look
suspected
good,
ACL tear, which is just from sidestepping or like just his legs buckling. I saw someone on Twitter that was like,
I think I saw, was this the guy that's like
and Paul Edison replied,
If Oliver wasn't so rubbish, they would have scored it earlier or something. It's like the bloke's leg has basically fallen off.
And Paul Edison, one of the very good French rugby journalists in English on Twitter, was just like, there was a kind of shock emoji to if Olivon was a better player. And then it was like, pretty interesting take, given he's done an ACL and still got the offload away.
And they score a try 6 seconds later.
Yeah.
Yeah, go and watch it if you haven't seen it. Toulon were excellent. Probably should have sealed it earlier. Racing, fair play, I thought hung in there. Some of their defence was decent enough.
I thought they were crap.
You thought they were crap?
I thought Racing were really crap.
No, that's total nonsense. You don't go. You're not in the game against that Toulon.
They weren't in the game. They were in the game because of an intercept, 2 intercepts. And like a ball that if Tuisova doesn't take that's a try the other way. They were they were not in that game. They were only in that if Toulon had bottled it. They did not deserve to be anywhere near Toulon. Like when it was at 31-10 or whatever, so that is a reflective scoreline of where the game was at. Toulon were completely
they were dominant. I'm not saying they weren't dominant, but for a side that have been in decline, I thought
who played well for Racing other than Legaric,
who
is a one-man band. He doesn't do anything.
Tuisova was excellent.
Tuisova didn't touch a ball till about 25 minutes.
No, mate, you've got
that's because they got a shoddy game plan.
You've got your Fiku blinkers on. Maxime Baudon off the bench was fantastic when he came on. He was very, very good for Racing. I'm believing. They're turning a corner at some point.
Like none of the front row. Roland's was
good
right
to see,
at times.
Good to see what's his name back for. I've forgotten his name. He's been out for ages. Loosehead. I forget his name. He started Collingar.
I think he played. He came off the bench last week, didn't he? He injured himself at a wedding. At Ibrahim Diallo's wedding.
Double knee slide.
Yeah.
Double knee slide ACL. Slightly sad news about Racing though is the news that came out yesterday about Camille Chat, whatever you want to call it. Who's
Yannick Tarrant was back. Not that did them any favours,
but he's now gone 12 years down the pan for turning up pissed after the Christmas party. I would say I can't imagine he'll find it that difficult to get a new club, but I think it's a pretty sad state of affairs, to be honest.
So he turned up pissed, whereas I think Tarrant didn't even turn up. So I don't know how they've squared
that was his problem. Maybe there's more to it, but
yeah, maybe he's got previous or
not ideal.
I'm absolutely mind blown that you thought that Racing were any good.
I thought they were fine against an outstanding team. Like they are playing some unbelievable rugby, and they fully pasted some sides at the Mile this year.
Yeah,
and I think your view on the Garrick's a bit harsh. That guy is fucking exceptional, and La Rochelle have got a proper winner there.
Well, actually, it's different.
Well, no, maybe he's not, but that says more about Serin than it does about Nolan Le Garrick, I would suggest.
I mean, if you need any more evidence of how far Toulon, Racing have just a poor imitation of other sides, the fact that the jackets that Zarzewski and Mishlak were wearing were basically red and black
kit. Yeah, I did notice that. That was not ideal.
We had the return of the old Pilu Pilu man.
Yes, I saw that. Who looks like he would fill you in.
I thought that was the same bloke, and now that I can see it, it's not. My thought was it must be very warm in Toulon in early January to stroll out topless
like a Newcastle football fan.
Yeah.
Final game of the weekend in the top 14 was Van Clermont, the Stade de la Rabine. I had a look on Friday. You could have got a last minute ticket for this. If anyone could have arranged a ferry to Brittany last minute.
And the flights to Nantes in January are very cheap. So I'm sure if you're an Edinburgh fan, you may already know that. But yeah,
nice.
We were having a browse of some stuff. But yeah,
they will be lost by a point at home to Clermont. I'll be honest, I only saw the last 25 minutes of this. From what I saw, I'd say they would be pretty disappointed. But enlighten me as to whether that's a fair assumption or not.
I mean, in a word, yes. Robbie Knox said on the final whistle, like, this is a game that's going to come back and haunt them. And it will, because they, quite frankly, they ballsed up the chance to win that. Like, it wasn't like an obvious cocking up. It was just they didn't get in. They never got themselves into the opportunity to win it, in a way, even though they had the perfect opportunity to win it, because they had territory. They had a side that was giving away, like, if you're not backing yourself within 30 meters of the goal to get a penalty to kick at goal when the opposition has Marcos Kremer in it, like, just have a bit of patience. They would get Clermont basically rotating their back row, because obviously you got the rolling subs. They were basically rotating Fritz Lee, Tisserand, Fischer, and Kremer, depending on who had most recently given away a penalty and was therefore most likely to suddenly get sin-binned. But I mean, they had a lot of luck to get into. Talking of sin-bins and back rowers, the Tisserand yellow card in the first half is like, it's barely a beige. Like, it's not even. It's like not even cream.
Oh,
it's
really? I haven't seen that.
It's like
a green card.
It was. He was done for a high shot, but he basically, like, his hand catches the throat. It's kind of like, okay. It's a penalty. Like, it's a penalty because he caught him, but it was Zach Farrant saying that he got a red card at his hand because the crowd kicked off. It was one of them, and I thought there was going to be one. I think it was Kremer for like another high shot where it's like, well, he's just hit the ball there and he slid up, and the crowd were going berserk. But thankfully, I think it was Ludovic Kerr in this one decided to not lose the plot on that. But so Van were doing well to be in it, because Clermont spurned a couple of chances. Tisserand dropped a ball that, after a brilliant break from Junot, who had a mixed bag. He is brilliant, but some of his kicking was dreadful. But he can wriggle free in a Dupont-like way. And he basically, like, offloaded it to Tisserand, and Tisserand, had he caught it, and it was not a tricky one to catch, he juggled it and then dropped it. He's got less than 22 meters to run it in with no one in front of him. But Van were quite good. They were quite good generally. Their scrum dominated Clermont at times. Although it was pointed out to me on Instagram that was when they were down to 7 men. Clermont down 7. But I think just the final bit of having that territory, they've got in Lafarge, they've got a guy who can kick drop goals. He's kicked penalties. And they just they'd seem not to have any plan in place to get him into position. And if they did not execute it in any way at all, because it looked like he was lining up for it. And they just couldn't manufacture a position, or didn't have any structure to that play.
It made, I thought, those last few plays, it made for almost like quite uncomfortable viewing.
Yes.
Because they were sort of, as you say, it looked like he kind of was in position. He was sort of centre field, but he was maybe like 5 yards too close to the ruck. You know, like, it would have to be perfect. And then by the time the ball's there, they suddenly start going wide, and they're just getting, and then they start getting marched back, and it just made for, I don't know. It looked like pure panic, basically. Yeah. And it's a weird thing to say that it was a little bit tough to watch, but it was quite unbecoming of it's one thing, Harry Randall grim pass to George Ford in the Autumn Internationals, slices it. Like, it's one thing getting in that position and not executing it. It's quite another to nearly get in that position and then just fizzle out in the way they did. Was pretty horrible.
Yeah. Stephen Varney's very new, and I don't think they should have taken Ruru off. Ruru well, partly because he could have easily won them a turnover penalty in the opposition half, because he won like 3 turnovers.
He was all over the place
at the breakdown. But also he's an experienced man. He's got the relationship with Lafarge. Varney's basically played like 3 or 4 games at Van. I can't imagine his French is particularly good. It was. And the weird thing about that is that they have, and I think it probably is that sort of because they've had to make changes. Because again, going back to Zach Farrens, like he said, what Van had done really well is they had so many structures in place because it was the same people and the cohesion was there from years and years and years of playing together. And Spitz has been there for years and whatever, but they look completely lacking in any cohesive thought process in that final bit, and they are now ashamed.
Yeah, they are. They're gonna have to find a couple of wins away from home at some point, which is not ideal. But you never know. They've shown they can. I mean, we're only a few weeks back. They beat La Rochelle away, so and I still want to get out there at some point. So let's be bold. Let's back Van to bounce back. Back Mako. That's what I'm saying.
He was brilliant again.
He's class, isn't he? Since he shaved his lid off and he's gone for the full. Yeah, he's
We also
he's been superb.
Last week in our top 14 signings of the season, we praised Mako, but completely neglected to mention Billy Vunipola, who was Rugby Rama's signing of the season so far. So,
was it? I did see.
Well done us.
The Midi Olympique flop.
The Rugby Rama, it was.
That was Rugby Rama? Yeah, same it, but it was basically everyone that we had in our pre-season best signings, with the exception of I think they said South Vanuatu's had a mixed start. I think they had Farrell as number 1.
Farrell was number 1 worst signing.
Yeah, there was a bit of anti-English in there. Harry Williams had been thrown in. Harsh, real harsh. Anyway, Van, they'll be back. Shall we park it? Quick break. Europe coming up next.
Picture this, you're halfway through a DIY car fix, tools scattered everywhere, and boom, you realise you're missing a part. It's okay, because you know whatever it is, it's on eBay. They've got everything, brakes, headlights, cold air intakes, whatever you need. And it's guaranteed to fit, which means no more crossing your fingers and hoping you ordered the right thing. All the parts you need at prices you'll love, guaranteed to fit every time. eBay, things people love.
Champions Cup, Challenge Cup is upon us, but more importantly, we cannot pass by the fact that Pro D2, after a few-week hiatus, is back in our lives this weekend.
And Nationale.
And Nationale as well. Even more importantly, how could I forget my beloved Nationale? Chambéry Narbonne at the top of the table, looking good. Chambéry is going to be like the new powerhouse of French rugby in 5 years' time.
I think they're going to be good. Yeah. There's also direct flights to Chambéry.
Yeah,
I assume
lots of
only
skiing,
during the ski
cash.
season. Yeah,
knocking about there. Nationale, what's the pick of the fixtures this weekend? It's probably Carcassonne host Rouen on Friday night.
Narbonne,
that's pretty good, and Narbonne Albi, little bit of a derby. A
little bit,
miles away from one another. They certainly catch the imagination. Pro D2.
For any ambitious Cardiff fans, they could go to the Perpignan game and then nip down the road to Narbonne to watch the Narbonne v Albi game.
Oh, is the Cardiff game? Friday,
1:00. Saturday,
and then jump on the train.
Yeah,
why not? Give it a go. Alrighty, Pro D2. Grenoble, who have been flying, host Montauban on Thursday. The other two that catch my eye, I think, are Agen hosting Provence. Feels like that could be quite an interesting even affair.
Oh, because Provence still haven't won away.
Yeah,
they're still the only team not to have won away, which is remarkable.
And the other one, which I think could be quite interesting, is Brive away at Dax. Dax, who have been really good at home in that. Friday night slot, which I don't know if it's still true. Up to a few weeks ago, nobody had won away from home in that slot.
15 from 15 of home wins in the late Friday kickoff.
I'm sure Brive. And this marks also, remarkably, the I guess as we have had with the top 14 regular season, the tipping point over halfway.
Le Retour, I think they call it.
How has that happened? Anything else catch your eye in there?
Biarritz, Saxby, because Saxby have replaced Biarritz because of the points deduction. They replaced them in fifth. So they're basically evenly matched sides, even though the table doesn't say that. And Biarritz have nilled a couple of sides away. Saxby have generally been pretty good away. So, Biarritz have nilled a couple of sides at home. And Saxby have been pretty good away. So that could be an interesting one.
Nice. Are there any other double headers in there for traveling fans this weekend?
I've had a real look, and again, I'm gonna raise my issues with the South Africans being in it, and that will come to a head. Well, it's already come to a head this weekend in the top 14 with Toulouse, although nearly spectacularly. But quite a lot of the French teams in both competitions are away, so there's very few French sides at home, and then the ones that are at home are actually tend to be to South African sides. So you've got like Castres host Bulls, Montpellier host Lions, and I think there was someone else. I don't know, maybe that's next weekend. The cheat.
So you could do Argen Cast, doable.
Yeah, if you are a Bulls fan or you're going to that game, you could do. That was the one I kind of thought. If you're a Northampton fan, so an English side that is playing a French side, Northampton are away at Stade Francais 5:30 p.m. or 6:30 p.m. local time on Saturday. Massy are playing at the same time the previous night in the similar sort of area of they're both West Paris, aren't they?
Yeah, it's not a million miles away.
And Massy are playing top of the league Chambéry. So if you are a Northampton fan or you know a Northampton fan who is going to Paris, look at our Paris post for when we did it for Saracens before Christmas, but also B, mention the Massy game because that could be a lovely little doubleheader.
Well, also when Chambéry win the Champions Cup in 3 years' time, you can say you were there when they were there in Nationale. Massy actually have got that wrong. Massy is a bit further south. It's down near Orly Airport.
Okay.
But not a million, not particularly difficult to get to.
The other one mentioned the Cardiff fans possibly going to knob on, but a more practical option would be Carcassonne. And they may, if you're a Cardiff fan, you may even be flying to Carcassonne. So Friday night, Carcassonne versus top of the table Rouen. No, not top of the table Rouen. Recently relegated Rouen. Third place Rouen. Third versus fifth. That could be a cracking game as well.
Carcassonne as well, a ground that one of our Rosbifs followers attended the barrage game last year before the Harlequins match, and it looks like a fantastic place.
It's quite near the old medieval city, so and Carcassonne is very doable on the train from Perpignan. I've done it myself. It's about an hour, and it's quite a cheap train. So yeah.
Plenty to keep you interested. You mentioned there quite a few of the French teams on the road. Racing go to Glasgow Friday night. That's probably going to be pretty painful. Bordeaux go to Exeter. It's going to be a long journey back for the Bordeaux boys after they get turned over there. What else have we got?
Talking of long journeys, I think they set off on Sunday, didn't they? Half of them. I couldn't work out if half of them had already gone by Saturday.
Yeah, it was
by
a bit
the time
odd.
of the La Rochelle game.
Toulouse travel to the Sharks, which is fascinating in a number of ways. One, because of it feels like a bit of a, not just because Toulouse treat the tournament with a huge amount of reverence, right?
Yeah.
As I think is right. But equally, they could leave a few behind, and this is what caused a few ruptions at the La Rochelle game. Why they put out the under-9s, but in theory, this could be like an absolute all-timer. Say what we want about the South African side's inclusions. Given the history, the histrionics of certain sections of fans, it should be a belter, right? Not that anyone will be watching, because they'll be watching Exeter Bordeaux, but
if the Sharks do not play 50% of their Springboks, get rid. Just go. If Etzebeth, actually, I think Etzebeth might be injured. If they're not injured and they're not playing, like if Oxenche isn't starting on the bench and Vincent Koch isn't starting on the bench, Bongi and Benambi, then they can piss off out of our competition. Come at me. I've flipped a notepad. Come at me, South Africa. But I hope they do, and I hope it's a belting game, because you've basically got the two best international packs in the world going against each other. Essentially, plus Jack Willis.
Yeah, it could be phenomenal. Yeah,
chance for Jack Willis
really
to prove that. Chance for Jack Willis, Piato Malvaca, and Tom Ramos to prove that they are the second best player in the world behind Antoine Dupont, and it is not Oxenche or Eben Etzebeth or whoever. Yeah,
Sia Khaleesi.
We know it's not him.
He was very good that first round, actually, against a few Racing fans would have been like, hang about, what is going on here? That should be an absolute beaut. Bordeaux travel to Exeter. I'm actually going to that game, it looks like. Seeing some family, little tactically timed visit down to Bristol. Actually could make a pretty steady weekend of it. You've got Bristol and Bath both at home on the Sunday, but I think my luck and timing might run slightly dry on that. Could be a long afternoon, or at least a long second half for Exeter, but we'll see.
On the Bath game, we kind of played it a bit at the start of the tournament. Will Clermont turn up for that?
Yeah. Yes.
I think I'm going to go yes.
I think they will.
They get a bonus point last time, so they've got 5 points from 2 games. Bath have got 1, I think, or 2.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because Bath have lost both their games, right?
Yeah.
I think they will, not least because
they went full noise away this weekend.
Yeah, they did. 7 day turnaround. Well, we don't know. I'm going to go yes. I think maybe not least how successful La Rochelle were, albeit in horrible conditions down in Bath. Some couple of big packs going at it could be a decent watch. I hope they do. So that could be a really genuinely good game.
And before anyone comes at me, the reason why I'm kicking off about if the Sharks are players is because that is at home in South Africa. And the whole thing is the travel. Whereas French side's going away, I've done it for years. English side's going away, have now been doing it for quite a long time. Going away is fine. Well, it's not fine, but
to an extent.
It's more understandable. Whereas if you're making a team take a 13-hour flight to come to your fixture, at least put a full side out.
I think
stop
they
me
will.
Before I rant anymore. Toulon Quins, that could be. Actually, no, Quins are struggling at the moment, and struggling at scrum time. Carson could cause some carnage against his former club.
Yeah, he might do. Could be set up to be a really good one though. That I think they'll probably Harlequins a little bit too powerful. I think we've got Brendan's Harlequins fan like Andre Esterhazen is an unfillable hole for them in these sorts of games. He'll be playing against
hopefully him versus Peter Aki. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, right Harlequins off at your peril. That's one thing we learned last year in the Champions Cup. But the power of that Toulon pack is quite something.
And they're in form as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's not the sort of names on paper vibe we've seen previously. Like they're playing
and they mean business.
1-15. Yeah, going very nicely. And then a really intriguing one, La Rochelle, Leinster play each other all the time. I think Leinster snuck this in the group stages last year, didn't they? A very wet Marcel Deflandre. But two teams,
6 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Or
in like fog and rain.
Yeah, I think Frawley hit one over from about 60 metres, the last kick of the game, potentially to deny them. Anyway, that's by the by.
16.
La Rochelle, who have been a little bit sticky of late, as we discussed at length at the top of the pod, against Leinster, who in Europe at least haven't looked well. They played a Bristol side, didn't they? But certainly in that game against Clermont, weren't. Yeah, we thought they'd run away with that, and they didn't. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what to expect. It feels like a really important game, not just in the context of the tournament, but in terms of respectively as to particularly where La Rochelle are at.
So
they lost to Leinster in the quarterfinals last year as well, didn't they?
Yeah, having gone to Stormers, and they looked absolutely cooked.
Yeah.
So I wonder with La Rochelle, and you mentioned it in terms of they had nothing to gain from that Toulouse match.
Yep.
I wonder with them, because there is now criticism of like their attacking shape and the kind of coaching that's going on, is Ronan O'Gara now very good at getting them up emotionally, and that is sometimes papering over some of the cracks in terms of some of their some of their line out in the past has been dreadful. Like some of their away form has been dreadful, which suggests that it could be an emotional thing. Whereas we saw when it was Champions Cup, like that, they could have easily just French side away at Bath, pissing rain, and they were brilliant. Is there a l'opportunity to fucking an arm? Will it be one of them again?
The master orator, still the best, probably the best thing that's happened in the time we've been watching rugby. It's incredible. Yeah, I think it's a really good point. And you could, that Bath game, you could kind of see it on the faces a little bit of like Aldrit and Kerr Barlow that day. Like they were so dialed in, and it's an interesting one. I guess we'll see, won't we?
Because I think they need to be. I think Leinster are going to be a better coach team. They're going to probably have actually possibly more star quality or better, a better starting 15 on paper as well. Not often you say that about La Rochelle, but if La Rochelle are up for it, which is actually what's happened with the Leinster games in the past, is that they've emotionally been at a place that has been able to beast Leinster. So
was Skelton out injured? Or was he
was on the infirmary list when it popped up on screen. But I didn't see it on Rugby Rama's one. They didn't have it, so I don't know.
Because I would quite like to see.
I don't remember him picking up an injury.
No, not in that Clermont game.
No.
I'm not a massive one for matchups, as it were. I think hugely overrated. But I would quite like to see Skelton and RG Snyman trying to tear each other to pieces for 60 minutes or however long it will last. Yeah, could be.
There's some stuff about like in the group stages of the Champions Cup, basically Snyman, the Irish players get president to give them like game time, and
I saw
basically
this.
You can, when you get to the knockouts, you can use RG Snyman as much as you like, sort of thing.
Yeah, very strange. If
they end up picking McCarthy and Ryan, it's not like a particularly lightweight
light. No, it's not. There's some fantastic matches in the Champions Cup this weekend. Challenge Cup, we mentioned Cardiff go away to Perpignan, Van host Edinburgh, which could be really interesting. Edinburgh, pretty strong side, albeit maybe punch below their weight at times. Bayonne set
talking
off.
of will the French team turn up? What do you reckon to that one?
Bayonne away in Georgia. I'm going to go with no.
The Bayonne under 18s away in Tbilisi.
Just incredible. Montpellier host the Lions, as you mentioned. Lyon go to Connacht. That's
Montpellier tournament favourites, I reckon. They're 2 for 2.
Yeah, they probably are, aren't they?
And the way they're playing,
the strongest side.
Yeah,
on paper in the competition, maybe the exception of Edinburgh.
Yeah,
Lyon are not going to bother, are they? You wouldn't think.
Probably not. No.
The Steve Cummins derby,
which I wanted to go to. And when we had Steve Cummins on the pod back in the summer, just before the fixtures were announced, we teased him with, imagine if you guys draw Poe. And lo and behold, it happened. And I was looking today, on the off chance that I found myself at a loose end on Sunday, at getting down to Newport, because Rodney Parade is 15-minute walk from the station. And my jaw dropped when I saw £91.40 come up as the cost of a train ticket from Paddington to Newport. An hour and 45-minute train on a Sunday. A return is £91.40. I genuinely think it'd be cheaper if the game was in Poe.
Yeah, it probably would be.
Flight to Toulouse, a 2-hour train. Would be less, I reckon.
I'll have a look at that right now.
Unfortunately, I will not be going to support my boys or to catch up with Steve. But Dragons are bottom of the URC.
Yeah, they're having a real rough time.
Poe will send the kids, but it'd be quite interesting to see how the likes of Desperez and Aaron Grandidier has been playing the Challenge Cup games and actually scored a belting try at the weekend. But some of the more, because they do have a very young side, and some good youngsters coming through. So it'll be interesting to see. Like, they're not going to play Joe Simmons, and they're not going to play Gaetan. So, or Maddox.
So you could, if this game was in Po, you could have flown from Stansted 6 a.m. on Saturday morning, arriving in Toulouse at 8:45. Maybe caught a bit of Nationale, and then you
could have gone to the Castres game.
Could have gone to Castres, and then you could fly back to Toulouse at 10 p.m. A flight that I think actually we did, and it got delayed, and we got home at 5. So maybe taking your life into your own hands there for the princely sum of £42. That's this weekend, albeit
flight.
Yeah, albeit you do have to leave the house at
about 45.
3 a.m. So, anyway, digress. Should we come back and do the Petit-Fours? Petit-Fours Digestifs. There feels like there's so much rugby on our plates, loads of movement off the pitch as well. Just lots going on. Hit me with your Petit-Fours, Rob.
I realised just before this podcast that I've been absolutely done by the Breathe Instagram account. So
deliberately, just to,
me personally, ironically, because I'm wearing. They saw that I bought the double tracksuit, and I say this wearing a Breathe hoodie. Basically, I was on Kerwin Bosch's Instagram. They did like a kind of post that was kind of like, did you like series 2 of Squid Game? Well, you can now watch series 2 of Breathe in Pro D2. And I was like, oh, this is a fly on the wall. What is it, like Sunderland till I die type? Yeah, sort of. Sunderland Breathe back in Pro D2. Like they got a bit of money. Like, how's it going to go? Like, a bit of a story there. And I did a bit of research, and I think it is literally just they've like mocked it up as though it's a documentary, and it is just the second part of the season. I genuinely thought they had like a Netflix documentary, but sadly, I'm glad I did my research properly before the podcast, because they do not.
Very good. What else was that? What's caught your attention? You've been catfished by a fake documentary.
Well, the other thing that caught my attention, which you mentioned in our little break there, Paul from the Rugby in Germany account on Twitter and Instagram. So this, he's a follower and he listens. So hi, Paul, if you're listening, thank you very much. Paul. I saw this yesterday evening. There is a club in Germany, and I'm going to get the name to do them justice.
Baden-Württemberg. Württemberg, that's it.
Have signed, which I assume is in Baden-Baden, which is where Schalke play, I think. And famously, the Wags were in 2006 World Cup. They may not be. There's loads of places called Baden in Germany, I think. But they have signed an agreement with Toulouse to have access to some of the Toulouse coaches, to have return-friendly fixtures for their kind of under 16s and under 18s. There'll be internships available at Toulouse for Baden-Württemberg or RBW coaches and possibly some players, which I think is really cool.
It's just generally, isn't it? It's brilliant. Amazing. And Toulouse are in a privileged position with their history and their riches and stuff, but it's not by mistake, is it? It's because they do things like this when others are nowhere near. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's that's really cool. And especially like when people talk about the special sauce of Toulouse and like the quality of coaching, you only need to look at the game on Saturday to know how good the quality of coaching is. Yeah. And for a club in Germany, a club growing, and Paul was kind of hoping that rugby in Germany is growing, and hence why he's kind of doing his account largely in English language. But yeah, really cool story to keep an eye on, and the growth of. I'll certainly be keeping an eye on Germany during the Rugby Nations Championship. Partly because Giovanni Habel-Kufner is going to be tearing it up for Germany.
God. That's amazing. Baden-Württemberg is actually the state that I believe does have Baden-Baden. The capital is Stuttgart, which I went to last year not last year, the year before last now, on a stag do. dangerous place, but quite cool. So yeah, shout out Baden.
That would have been really nice if you cap that off with like, and we went to a Baden-Württemberg game, but I know that you went to watch darts, so.
We went to watch darts. We went to watch some local American football.
Oh wow!
I can't remember what they were. Oh, they had a brilliant name as well. I'll report back next week. It was top draw. It was like the something Penguins in Germany. I don't know, but it was so good. Yeah, a few bits that caught my attention this week. Spoke about some big coaching departures and coaching moves. Perry Freshwater, who's something of a big Rosbif, part of the 2007 World Cup squad, won the Heineken Cup with Leicester.
Was he in the 2003 World Cup squad as well?
Don't think so. No, I don't think he
might be
was.
Like on the fringes.
Possibly. He's something of Perpignan legend. Won the Bouclier Brunus in 2009 with them. He's been their scrum coach for ages. He's leaving at the end of this season. I think slightly ahead of schedule. I would imagine probably on to something else. I imagine someone with that sort of reputation and grounding in the French game, and a club like Perpignan has probably got a fair few suitors lined up. So we'll wish him and USAP well. Part of the furniture in the kind of Joel Ab mould there, I think.
Yeah.
So that was quite cool. What else do we have? We spoke about Camille Chat's departure. Spoke about Jeremy Davidson. Another big, I don't know about a big move, but Stade Francais have appointed a new scrum coach, Mathieu Blin, who was actually a Stade Francais hooker and was previously a coach at Argennes, gone there. But in slightly more, I don't know if you saw this, the bit that caught my attention was down in Biarritz on the beach. Charlie Matthews and a couple of the Biarritz players involved in a sort of promotional collaboration, part of, I think, organised by the mayor of Biarritz with the Molandin Ballet Company, which is the company put together by renowned ballet choreographer Thierry Molandin, excuse the pronunciation, and her name's Claire Longchamp, who was being lifted line-out style on the beach by three Biarritz players, mainly by Charlie Matthews. And the photo is brilliant. It's like the front of a magazine cover. And it basically looks like she's wearing that sort of classic ballerina's outfit. And it looks like she's sort of coming out of the top of his head. It looks like a hat, basically.
I'm going to have to find this. I've not seen that.
If you go on Biarritz's Instagram, you'll see it there. Certainly a slightly left field collaboration, but yeah, it sounds like I did a little bit. I know nothing about ballet. I'm sure this will surprise you, but I think they're a pretty serious outfit.
It looks like the ballerina is the top of the tree, top of the Christmas tree. Or they're putting her on top of the Christmas tree, and Charlie Matthews is the Christmas tree.
It's the tree.
Like there's a couple of lads like lifting, like placing her nicely on top of the bit
it's
pointing up,
isn't it? It's really good. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Yeah, really made me chuckle.
That Johan Bergerai, he's in everything. And whenever there's something going on, it's like Nonsti Quing. Like Johan Bergerai is another one that's just always, whenever there's something funny going on, he's there.
He's there swapping fake teeth with Damien Penaud in a cafe somewhere with Nonsti Quang watching over his shoulder. Right, I think we're pretty much there. Should we wrap it up? Anything else, or just a big week of rugby to look forward to?
I am trying, if I get some time, I will try and do a new jazzy little thing with a way of presenting some itineraries or itinerary options that hopefully will get out there for fans for this weekend, next weekend, and actually the weekend after that, when the week between Europe and Six Nations, because there are some very, very cheap flights to France from London that weekend.
Yeah, January, crap month, good time to travel to France.
I'm not going to promise anything because I'll have to fit that in, and I don't know when that will happen.
Sure, I can work something out. Alrighty, we have been Rosbif Rugby. That has been Rob. I've been Richard. You can follow us on all of the normal social channels. Enjoy what is set to be a proper bumper weekend. We've got Nationale, we've got Pro D2, we've got the Challenge Cup and Champions Cup. and probably loads more as well. So keep an eye out. We'll look forward to digesting it all next week. In the meantime, not much else to say, but Happy New Year and au revoir.
Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your number one priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. Obtaining your SOC 2 or ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors, but they take time and energy, pulling you away from building and shipping. That's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution helping startups get audit-ready and build a strong security foundation quickly and painlessly. Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. The platform connects you with trusted experts to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. So whether you're closing your first deal or gearing up for growth, Vanta makes compliance easy. Join over 8,000 companies, including Y Combinator and Techstar startups who trust Vanta. For a limited time, get $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/simplify. That's VANTA.com/simplify for $1,000 off.